We're going to start by doing a little bit of sanding, but at this stage we've got to be very careful only to sand the flat faces only. We don't want to round over any edges, and I just want to explain why. Later on, when we build this toolbox here, I'm just going to show you on this camera here, where this join is here, if we round over the edge of this piece of wood here, you'll have a gap here. So it's very important when you're doing this sanding that you don't allow the paper to round over the edges. Now, to give you a quick overview of what we're going to do, sanding works by getting progressively smoother as we go through so that your piece will be really, really fine. And what we normally do is do any kind of material removal with a rough grit of paper, which will be the P80. Then we'll move on to P120 to remove the scratches we put in with that. And then finally, we'll go over with P180. Now, because this wood is already planed, it's already quite smooth, so you can start off with the 120 medium grit. So I'm just going to wrap this round the sanding block included in your kit. And to do that, we just pop the paper around the block like this, fold up an edge, and then fold it down properly like that. Put the block back in and fold up the other edge. I'm going to take the block out, make that fold proper, and repeat it for the last two edges. Take the block out, fold it properly, and there we go. We have our very own sanding block that's really nice and tight, no saggy bottoms. Okay. We always want to sand with the lines of the wood, so with the grain on the wood, and we're just going to gently sand back and forwards. So I'm going to start by sanding these, and I'm just going to go forwards and backwards like this. Nice straight lines, forwards and back, and let your fingertips be your guide here. If it feels nice and flat, then it's probably ready to go. If it feels a bit lumpy, you need to do a bit more. And we're just going to go back and forwards like this. Now, if you're in an enclosed space, make sure you wear a mask for doing this or you'll be sneezing. The best place to do this is outdoors, okay? Right, so I think that's this side here done. What I'm going to do now is do the edges, these bits here, like this, all over this block, and these two as well, and also my plywood base. Give that a really good sand. Once I've done that, I'm going to go over again with the 180 grit to make it feel really smooth. And remember, no rounding edges like this, okay? Keep it nice and flat at all times. Okay, I'll give this a sand and then I'll meet you on the other side. Once you've done all your sanding, I'd like you to just put your box together and do a little test fit, because it might be you've got very slightly cupped bits of wood that they move around even in the box while they're being shipped to you. So line everything up, just check that everything is going to work out as you wanted it to. If you've got tiny little curves here and there, don't worry about that, we'll pull it back into shape later on. Put this together without the handle. The base here is going to go on from underneath, we're going to nail that on later on. Next, what we want to do is decide which is the nicest faces of our pieces so we can put them in the right place. So I'll show you an example. On this board here, I've got a little knot in that, and there's a thin bit on this side. If I turn it over though, it's a really not very nice knot. So I'm going to put this facing the inside of my box at the bottom. Okay, and then on this one here, I'm just going to have a quick look. Yeah, I quite like that, the way round that it is. Okay, so I'm happy with that position. So now I know which sides are going to be my outside faces. And once I've got those, we're going to mark the locations of where the nails are going to go. So for marking the nail locations, you can, if you want, cut this template out here and lay it over the piece of wood. But you're probably better off using a ruler or, even better, a combination square. So these are going to be my faces. So I'm going to make sure that my faces are facing me. And so this one here, I'm going to turn it round and have it that way round so I can mark them at the same time. Okay, so when the nails go through these pieces of wood, they're going to go into this bit of wood here, and we want the nails to go right in the middle. Now the wood is approximately 18 millimeters thick, so we want the nail to be about 9 millimeters from the edge. So what I'm going to do is set my combination square. I'm going to undo the little handle here. Set my combination square for about 9mm. So you see it's just sticking out there by 9mm. And then I can use that on the edge of my board like this to make a little mark. And I can make a little mark, something like that, 9mm in from the edge. Now if you've got a ruler or another combination square, the first hole needs to be 20mm down from the top, like it says on the plan here. So I've set this one at 20mm. If I put the stock of the combination square onto the wood like that, and I make a little mark going this way, hopefully you can see here I've ended up with a little cross, and that little cross there is exactly where my nail needs to go. Now you need to mark the locations of all 6 nails on each board. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we can speed this up a little bit for you if we want. So that's 20mm up from the bottom, and then using this again, 9mm in from the edge. So you can see I missed where that was going to go, so I'm going to go back on here and just make that little mark there. That little cross there, that's where it needs to go. And then I'm going to use my ruler to get the middle location. So it is 72mm down from the top, or 7.2 centimeters as you prefer. So 72, there we go. Make a little mark there. Double check it's in at the right place. There we go. So now I've got my 3 marks ready for us to drill a hole through. So go ahead now, mark this side, and this side, all the same, and I'll see you in the next one. Once you've marked where all your nail locations are going to go, if you do have an awl lying around, a pointy thing like this, it's really good practice to just put it onto the cross that you've marked and just push it in just a small amount. We only want a small indent, not a really deep one. And do that for where all of your nail locations are going to go. Now this will make sure that when you go to drill the hole, it's guided directly into the right spot. Okay, so go ahead and do that, and then we'll set up the 2mm drill bit in our electric drill here to drill these holes all the way through. So now that I've made these marks with an awl, I think now is a really good time to get rid of the pencil marks that you've got on the wood. So use the rubber on the back of your pencil and remove those marks as best you can now. We can do some more with sandpaper later on, but it's just much easier to get rid of those now. Okay, now I'm ready to drill the holes. And we want to drill through this long side, all the way through from one side to the other. We don't just want to do that in free air because we'll create tear out on the back. So what we're going to do is, I've just got a bit of scrap wood that was lying around here. You could use your practice block for this as well. But I'm going to make sure where I'm going to drill is supported underneath by another piece of wood so I don't drill into my workbench. Now I've put the 2mm drill bit included in your pack into an electric drill. We're making sure that the drill is turning to the right. As we look down the back of the drill, it should be going to the right or clockwise. And then I'm going to line it up on one of the holes. And I need to make sure this is as straight as possible. If you don't get this straight, the nails could come out the side as you're putting it together. So what we're going to do is pull the trigger, gently drill down, and then just confirm that we have actually drilled all the way through, which we have. Okay. Go ahead and drill all 12 holes. When you finish drilling the holes, you'll notice there's some little burrs where the drill has come through. So just get your sandpaper and give them a little sand, because you want those to be nice and smooth for later on, for when you go to hammer it together. Now do that on both sides of the wood. Only take a couple of seconds. Okay, that's one done. Do the other one and then we'll move on. So whilst I've been working in the workshop, this wood has started to move a little bit. When I put the two ends together, can you see I've got a small gap here? So this is totally normal, and we'll bring that back in later on. But it basically means if you've got a curve, you want the two curves to be facing each other. So I've just marked a little O to say outside face and outside face, so I know which way round they go later on, okay? Right, now then, what we're going to do is put a line across here and a line across here, ready for cutting off the tops. Now, it's quite an easy thing to do to mark this up. We're going to either use a ruler or set our combination square for 55 millimeters. And then 55 millimeters in from the side, so you see the stock of the combination square is on the side here. I'm just going to make a tiny mark at the top, like that. Same on this one over here. And then I'm going to spin it round and make another mark here and another mark over here. So you could of course just do a ruler 55 millimeters in from each edge. Now that we've done that, our combination square has this 45-degree angle on here, so I'm going to extend the ruler part so it sticks out quite far, something like that. And then what I need to do then is find which way round is the best way for me to be able to mark this. And for me here, if I put it on the edge there, I'm going to line up with the top of my pencil mark here, like that. And now I can draw my 45-degree mark down there like that. Now once I've done this, I want to mark this as waist. So I'm just going to do a little cross-hatch pattern, just so there's no confusion as to which part is waist. Now I'm going to do this side while I'm at it, because the combination square is the right way round, and you will discover it's quite tricky to get it the right way, to work the right way. Okay, mark that one. So now we've got to do this side, so I'm going to flip it over. Again, line up to the mark, make my line coming down like that, mark that as waist. Same on this side, take the line down, mark the waist. Now, it's quite important when you do this to also mark the other side. It's because when you go to cut it, you might put yourself in a position where you really want to turn the board round to be able to cut it easily, but you can't do that because you haven't marked both sides. So now is the time. So what we're going to do is transfer these marks here over to the other side. Now, to do that is quite easy. We're just going to get our set square, extend the ruler by about 50 millimeters, somewhere around there. And then I'm going to line it up with the little mark we made earlier, like so. And then I have to stand it up so I can actually see what I'm doing. And then I'm going to draw a line across the top of the board like that. And I'm going to draw a line here as well across the top of the board. And remember, let's mark our waist. So this part here is our waist, and this part here is our waist. So you can see how I've transferred those marks now around there. Now I want you to transfer them all the way over to the back. So we're gonna do that in a sec. Let's just move on and do this one whilst I've got the combination square set. There we go. Mark the waist. And this one, line over there, mark the waist. Now I'm also going to do the sides to follow those lines around as well, just in case we need them. Same on this side, line it up with that, the end of the line there, mark the waist. Okay, so that's that one. Now let's do the same on this one. Try and do it this way around so you can see what I'm doing. Line it up with the edge of the line, that's great. And then this side. There, lovely. Okay, now then I've got to transfer that line around, so I've got a 45-degree line across here. So we're going to extend the combination square again, find the right angle. There we go, that's right there. I'm going to line it up with that top line that we just transferred across. Double check everything is in the right position. And now I've got a line across the back. So now you see all the way around, this board here is marked up in the same way. Now I want you to do that also for this side and this side and this side. Go ahead and do that and I'll see you in a minute. Sawing these edges off, there's a few ways that you can do this. You could use a coping saw if that's the only saw that you've got, that works fine. You could also use a Western style saw like one of these, this also works fine, or a Japanese saw like the one in our kit. All of these ways work fine. But whatever way you do it, and however you're holding your work as well, you want to start, even though we're doing a 45-degree cut, we actually want a little groove, a little straight groove. So I'm just going to show you how I would do that. I'm going to make sure my saw is actually very slightly on this side of the line into the waist. And I'm just going to use my thumbnail here just to make a small little groove, okay? Light pressure with the saw. Okay, and I've just got a tiny groove. Yeah, a little bit deeper there. Now that I've got that tiny groove to work in, I'm going to adjust the angle of this in my vise so that it's tipped over so my saw can come straight down. So if I undo it like this, I'm going to have to have it up fairly high in my vise because my vise is on the middle of my table. I just want to check that this is pretty straight. Yeah, that's really good. Okay, so now I can line my saw up now at this angle and keep my eyes right over the back of it so I can see if it's straight and start sawing. So gentle pressure with something like this, just take your time. Now that we're into the cut, I want to try and use the full length of the saw blade. So try and do that. You can stand right behind it like this or one-handed as you prefer. And let's go for it. Now, keep checking by looking over the back at your other mark and see, are we on target or not? And if you look at mine here, it's very slightly tilted this way to the right. This is totally fine because we can just sand it off a little bit, but you can come back in and straighten it up just a small amount by tipping the saw the other way. That should be about right there. Tiny bit more. Okay then, and away we go, carry on. Keep checking that line on the other side. Now when you get near the end, support the offcut piece and just go very slow with your saw. There we go. And that's one of those cut. I just wanted to say about sawing that if you've never sawn a thing before in your life, then get some scrap wood and just practice sawing over and over and over. The key to sawing is lightness of pressure. So not pushing the saw down. So you hold the saw off the wood and go very, very light back and forward. Just make 50 lines across a piece of wood and practice sawing those lines. Then once you've done it 50 times, you will really sink into it and get a feel for it. Now, if you don't have a woodworking vise like this one, you can always just use some clamps. Clamp the bit of wood to the edge of your bench and saw through that way. So I'm just going to show you that one next. So I've got these quick release clamps here. I'm just clamping the bit of wood so that the edge of it is sticking off the edge of the table. And then I'm going to put another one on it. 2 clamps, make sure it's nice and tight and not moving around. Tighten that down. Okay, great. Now I can just saw through from on top this way. So again, I'm going to use my thumbnail as a guide. I'm just going to go light pressure. And can you see that I've got this little groove going on here? Once I've got a little groove going on, get your hand out of the way, move it somewhere else just in case it slips, and try and line everything up nice and straight. Keep blowing so you can see the line. Okay, there we go. So that's these two edges now cut. The next step, whilst you've got it here, is I would give them a good sand. So go for your 80 grit paper, get all of the rough saw marks off, then go over with 120, then go over with 180 to get those edges looking really smart, and then go on and cut your other side as well. I'll meet you back when we've done both of those things.